welcome to this, and this is my review of TNA's Genesis '09 pay-per-view, and a lot of people probably waiting for this because I said that this was my last chance. I was given TNA, and after that, I was only going to watch the stuff and review the stuff that I felt like doing. If I did not like this pay-per-view, if I felt like this pay-per-view did not deliver to where it was supposed to be, because, as I have said, while I think I understand why they've been doing with what they've been doing with Impact, I don't think that it has been, it only works if the pay-per-views deliver. So, the question is then, did the pay-per-view deliver? Now, I will say this. The pay-per-view, the Impact before this, the Go Home show, was very good and was probably one of the better Go Home shows I've ever seen TNA ever do. I wish we could get more stuff like that from TNA. There were still problems with it, but I still think it worked and it did its job and actually made me want to see this pay-per-view. So, that's saying something. Let's get started. We had the opening match, which changed while I was at work today, and then when I got when I got home, I was asking people, has the match changed since I left work? This card changed for various reasons. This was one of the matches. They added a match, which I don't even remember what all the match was, but it looked like a big clusterfuck. And we got this instead, which still wasn't real happy with, but at least I understood why it was on here. LAX and Eric Young versus Jimmy Rave, Sonjay, Dutt, and Kiyoshi. This was good little opener, good little X Division opener. Probably could have been better. They did elimination rules, which helped. Though TNA really didn't explain that part of it, and it kind of made me forget about it until Eric Young was eliminated. I think it was Eric Young was eliminated. This was used as a way to. This whole match was basically used as a way to launch probably Hernandez's single career and make it look like he actually belonged. As a big, mean, monster type of guy. It worked. He did pretty much, go over 3 guys, which I'm sure some people probably wouldn't like. And normally I wouldn't either, but I think it worked in this case. It's not something we often see TNA do, and you believe that big, giant, Hernandez would do this over these smaller guys, so that was okay. But this was a good match and a lot of fun. It was kind of hit and miss at the start, but then once everything started getting going, it really improved and was really good. And it was a good little opener. Got the live crowd into it, which sucked for the most part because for those of you that don't know about the live crowd, they weren't doing very well with the tickets, and so come to find out, they sent out had a special which you could do through Ticketmaster. You get up to 4 free tickets. The only thing was you had to pay the processing charges and all of that for Ticketmaster. So there looked to be a lot of people there. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of people took advantage of that myself, as that was probably a pretty big deal. But the problem with that was you had a lot of wrestling fans there, but you didn't have a lot of wrestling fans that were necessarily TNA fans. So they weren't always into the storylines and that sort of thing, and it was just kind of there, I guess is the best way to put it. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess, but they were like into some matches, but they were definitely, like with the Main Event Mafia, they were definitely into the older guys, particularly Sting. Sting got a huge, nasty ovation that I'm sure, since they can't, exactly make up their minds if he's going to be face or heel, and they're not going to make him act like a heel. I guess that's what's going to happen. But he got probably the biggest ovation of the night, as did a lot of the older guys. So there you go. Next we had a great match, and Chris Sabin and Alex Shelley. Probably a little too spotty for some. I enjoyed it. I particularly enjoyed the fact that we got multiple camera angles, and we got cool camera angles that we don't normally see from TNA. And I'm wondering if TNA has already seen the ROH pay-per-view and said, oh crap, if they could do this, why don't we do it? And so we got a lot of that sort of thing. I like that sort of thing, particularly when you're dealing with high spots like this. I really enjoyed this match. I thought it was really good. I've heard some people kind of crap on the end of this match, but I think it worked. I think it just made Shelley look just like, you know, the smart little devious heel that he is. And it was pretty enjoyable. I really liked it. It was a nice change of pace and made me have lots of faith on this pay-per-view. Gave me faith on this pay-per-view because on some of the other things we were getting. So that was groovy and wonderful, and lots of crazy spots. Just there was one where I think it was Shelley did a flipping heel drop, leg drop, while Sabin was on the was draped across the rope, and they actually used the camera angle, the above camera angle, so it really worked really well. That was one thing that I really noticed and I really liked, because I noticed those sort of things, and it's one of the things I always crave about for TNA. Next we got Sewell versus Sheik Bashir. This was probably as much time as they put in it. This wasn't very good. This was very, very, very old school. Probably a little bit too old school for some people's case. It was an okay match. It was definitely given far too much time, and I was glad when it was over. I will say that I think Sewell got too much offense in during the match. I really think Bashir should have had a lot more offense on this match, and then Sewell basically make the big giant like Hulk Hogan type of comeback, and that's really not what we got. We got kind of a mix of that, and it was kind of an ebb and flow match, which I don't think worked quite as well, but it was okay. And I'll say this, that they did do a good job of building this match up, even though I think they got their kind of ass backwards near the end, and you know the fact of, you know, he broke his neck, so he wasn't able to wrestle, and now he's able to wrestle, and blah blah blah. All of that was kind of crazy. But anyways, next we got the one match on this card that I absolutely don't get, particularly after watching the match. Consequences Creed and Jay Lethal beat Beer Money for the tag team titles at the last Impact. Okay, so now we're getting a three-way between Consequences Creed, Jay Lethal, Beer Money, and Matt Morgan and Abyss. Okay, so you would imagine that probably Matt Morgan and Abyss were going to beat Creed and Jay Lethal, or Beer Money was going to beat Creed and Jay Lethal. That is what you would imagine. That's not what we got. This was, I will spoil the end of this match, but this was crazy, because this was basically Beer Money beating Matt Morgan and Abyss, with Abyss accidentally hitting Matt Morgan with the title, which most of us knew what was going to happen. But this was a good match, but I just do not understand why Creed and Jay Lethal were in this match. I do not get it. I don't understand it. I can't fathom it. It was stupid in my opinion. I mean, if you want Beer Money and Creed and Lethal to feud, why not just wait till after this match and have them feud? I did not get this. This was just very bad booking in my opinion. As I was just like, what was the point of that? I mean, I guess unless they wanted to have Creed and Lethal in there because they didn't think that, you know, this match would be good match-wise, well, then just cut the match short, if that's what you think. I just didn't get this. But the match itself was good. Good 3.5-star match. Beer Money being Beer Money. Awesome. Matt Morgan Abyss actually looked pretty good. Matt Morgan looked good in some parts. TNA, stop making Matt Morgan sell to people. Please. He's the only 7-footer you get on the roster, and you make him look human. You don't make him look like a big, giant monster that he is. Will you please stop having him sell to people and just be a big, bad, nasty monster? Thank you. I'm done with that little rant. They did do a funny little spot where Jacqueline got involved. She was like smashed between Storm and I can't think of, and Rude. And when they fell over, she was like in Storm's lap. Her head was, and then her butt was up, and Rude was like behind her, and it was pretty suggestive, and it was funny, and it was awesome, except that that's the type of thing you do if Beer Money or faces or heels, and the woman in between them is, you know, on the opposite side. That just didn't make a lot of sense, but because you would imagine, you know, might be doing that backstage anyway, so does it really, you know, type of thing. But anyways, it was cool, but it was just kind of out of place, I would say. Then we got the trash of the night, because, folks, the Knockouts are the Divas. They might even be worse than the Divas at this point. Christy Hemme got, and see, we all got punished. That's what happened. Karma got us all in the ass, is what it did. It bent us all over and said, fuck all you. Because this is what happened. Christy Hemme came out that she was injured, so she was not going to be in this match. And people went, it's sad for Christy Hemme. We feel sorry for Christy Hemme, but fuck yes, we're probably going to get a better match. Thank you for whatever, thank you for her getting hurt. People never should have said that. People never should have thought that. Even if it just thought and said, oh, that was bad. Why did I even think about that? I'm sorry. Still came back and haunt us. Okay? And so everyone was like, oh, well, we'll have, even if we have Tyler Wilde or somebody versus Awesome Kong, it'll be good. Yeah. Well, come to find out, Awesome Kong was hurt too. Apparently she hurt her back, so she wasn't able to be in this match. So they gave us this 6 knockout match, which was Tyler Wilde, ODB, Roxxi, Sonjay Bolt, Rhaka Khan. Yes, Rhaka Khan was in this, unfortunately. And Raisha, I'm not even going to try to. Saeed, Cheerleader Melissa, and a freaking burqa. Okay? That's what it is. It's Cheerleader Melissa in a freaking burqa. And she can't wrestle in the burqa, and it sucks. In this 6-woman crap fest, I have seen many diva matches better than this. I've seen diva matches given more time that were better than this, or as much time that were definitely far better than this. This was bad. There was missed spots. This was sloppy. This was sucky. This was karma bending us over and saying, this is what you get for kind of saying, yay, someone got hurt, and we might get a better match of it. Because we didn't get a better match, we probably got a worse match. I do think Awesome Kong versus Christy would have been better than this. This was crap. This sucked. This sucked big time. But then, Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle came upon us, and it was great, and it was wonderful, and they kicked the crap out of each other, and did crazy, wacky shit, and it was wonderful, and they tried to kill each other, and it looked like they tried to kill each other, and it was epic, and I loved it. I loved every minute of it. 4.5 stars. Beautiful stuff. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kurt. However, this should not have been in this spot. I don't understand why Kurt Angle versus Jeff Jarrett should have been in this spot, because the 6-man that wound up main eventing, yes, main eventing, and I will say I understand why it main evented, but should not have been here. This should have been the second, this should have been, the co-main event, should have been the second to last match going, particularly after it was so awesome, and I'm pretty sure they knew it was going to be pretty good. Considering their Bound for Glory match was pretty freaking awesome too. Yeah, I don't know why this was on this card. I will say this, Kurt Angle went over, and I don't agree with that. I think Jeff Jarrett should have went over, myself, because I think it could have, just to, excuse me, frustrate Kurt even more, make Kurt even more crazy, foil the main event mafia even that much more, as, I think that would have been over. Kurt going over, I just didn't think was a good idea myself, but that was just me. Next we got Sting versus Rhino in one of the worst world title matches I have seen in forever. This was 2 stars. I wanted this to end not soon afterwards. They did an angle throughout the night where Rhino was hurt and beat up by the main event mafia. I don't know where they're going with that. Again, this should have main evented, even though it wasn't very good, and I'm sure they probably knew it wasn't probably going to be very good. But you booked the shit, didn't you? You booked this as your world title match, you main event it, you lay in your bed, and you have to go with it. Particularly since you were in Charlotte, Sting got a very, very good reaction, which I'm sure you probably knew. And, Sting winning would have sent the fans home happy. I think this would have been fine as the main event. It is your world title match, so there you go. Then we had Mick Foley, AJ Styles, and Devon versus Booker T, Scott Steiner, and Kevin Nash. Oh no! Kevin Nash got hurt. So it wasn't Kevin Nash. So we got yet another change on this card. And you have to ask yourself, who were the main event mafia going to bring out? Who were they going to be? Who was going to be in this match? Cute fucking Kip. I'm not shitting you. I'm not even joking with you. They put this in the main event and they put Cute fucking Kip as the 3rd person. What the fuck? This is the best you could do? You couldn't just call somebody up. You couldn't call, Rick Steiner up. You couldn't call Animal up. You couldn't call somebody up just to come in and just sit around and look nice next to them. What the flip? I just don't. You couldn't have called Al Snow back up and had him be in this match. You couldn't have done something. This is the best you could do. Is cute fucking Kip. Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. And I was even more pissed off when it happened because I was like, oh yay, the Main Event Mafia now has their jobber. They are now officially the NWO. They are now the NWO because now they have their NWO jobber that will job for them, so the Main Event Mafia isn't really jobbing. But that's not what we got, so I'm fine with that now. But this was not very good. This should have gone on before Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett. This should not have main evented this pay-per-view. I'm sorry. Very strange booking decision in my opinion. I don't think anyone thought this should have made the main evented the pay-per-view. I don't think anyone... I've heard a lot of people say, you should go ahead and let Jeff Jarrett and Kurt Angle main event the pay-per-view because everyone knew that was the real main event. That's what they were building towards. So I don't know why this main evented the pay-per-view. No idea. Can't explain it. Don't get it. I mean, unless you were going to have a big, huge, nasty surprise as, Kevin Nash's replacement, there was no reason for this to main event. And it wasn't very good. And it was actually very kind of boring and bad up until the fact that it ended in a count-out, and that made it even worse. And then magically, Kevin Cornette came out. Kevin Cornette. Cornette came out and said, that was bullshit. We're not ending this in a count-out. We're going to restart the match. And Booker T said, no, you don't have the authority to restart the match. And no, it was bad. Because then Mick Foley took the mic and said, no, he doesn't, but I do, so I'm going to restart the match. It's going to be a hardcore match. And the fans went, yay, we're going to see Mick Foley in a hardcore match. And it was okay, and it made it better, but it was short, and it was bad, it was plunderish, and it still wasn't very good. And it was 2 3/4 stars, and I might be being generous at that. It was not fun. This should not have main evented this pay-per-view. As I said, Sting versus Rhino should have main evented this pay-per-view. Strange, wacky booking craziness. That said, this was a pretty freaking good pay-per-view. I would say a great pay-per-view, as you got 2 4-star matches, and a lot of little 3-star matches, which were pretty nice. The main event didn't deliver. Neither of the 2 main events delivered. It would have been better to have, the other, as I said, Jarrett versus Angle as the co-main event going on before the top of the card. Would have been fine. Would have been excellent. Would have been cool. But that's not what they did. But anyways, this was still a very good, great pay-per-view. I will give TNA credit. They went out there. They delivered, in my opinion. Still some wacky booking crap that they need to fix. Use your head. Stop trying to swerve fans. Stop trying to make things more complicated. Though I will say that even though it was crazy booking, it wasn't the normally bad, whacked-out booking we usually get from TNA. It was just kind of weird, like, oh, this sounds like a good idea, and it really wasn't a good idea type of thing. It wasn't them trying to swerve people a lot. It wasn't that sort of thing, but a lot of weird booking decisions, which I don't really get, but hey, they can do their own thing. Anyways, as a pay-per-view score, 8.25, only because of the wacky, wiki booking. Lots of good wrestling on this. I definitely recommend checking it out. Lots of fun. I think, so, I'll be doing more TNA stuff, but, again, they have to deliver on the pay-per-views if TNA is going to be like it is. Unless they do, they actually kind of fix up TNA and then Impact, and then things will be fine. Then things will be wonderful if they do this sort of thing and they can kind of, honestly, and I will say this, I think they should have, I was going to mention this. Why is Sting, who was the world champion, and people have said this, second fiddle to Kurt Angle? This is like Horsemen. We're going to talk Horsemen. Most people understand the Horsemen. This would be like Arn Anderson or Tully Blanchard. Better would be Tully Blanchard. This would be like Tully Blanchard getting the world title and Ric Flair still being Ric Flair in the Four Horsemen. This is what this would be like. Why wouldn't you have it? Here's an idea. Why wouldn't you have Rhino actually beat Sting? Okay, and then you could have had a full sweep if you would have done like what I said with Jarrett going over, of the main event Mafia winning. And I'm sure they put the main event that they put over in the main event because they wanted everyone to go home with the main event, with the front line beating the main event Mafia. I'm sure that's what it was, even though Foley took the pin, was the one that pinned, which it probably should have been AJ or Devon. But hey, that's a little quibble. Anyways, Rhino probably should have beaten Sting And then on Impact, you could have had Angle beat Rhino, okay, and then you now have Angle, who is the head of the Main Event Mafia, actually being the world title, and your world title is now, you know, what it is, and it's now has somewhat importance. It isn't playing second fiddle to the guy running the Main Event Mafia. Just throwing that out there. I think that would have been a little bit better. But as I said, this was still a very good it's great pay-per-view. I'm saying very good. It was a great pay-per-view. 8.25. I would definitely recommend checking it out, as I think most people would enjoy it. Anyways, I'm out. Have a good one. Later.